Could it be from the aliens? The aliens who built the pyramids and brought us here to the earth? Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and to all my cousins out there, it's time to plug in. Let's get the train chugging. And Biden has been told that the transition can formally begin. Ta-da! That's fantastic. Has been told by whom? I don't know. But we've got a nice reduced present perfect passive here. He has been told that the transition can formally begin, and let's learn more in the caption below. Yes, the Trump administration has informed. So he has been told by whom? The Trump administration. They told Joe Biden that they are ready to begin the formal transition process in a letter that which was obtained, or which was received, which was gotten by CNN. And, well, it's about time, 3 weeks after the election now. So, same little thing here, though. Trump tweets about Biden transition formally beginning, because it had kind of formally begun already with Biden naming key cabinet positions, etc. And so, as opposed to being done informally, casually, I don't know, but now it's officially begun, and so that's a good thing to try and ease the transition and make the whole process a little bit smoother. Let's move on. Biden unveils his administration. As I said, he's been nominating people for his picks for different cabinet positions, and Trump's firewall is crumbling. So he's continuing to unveil new nominations for key cabinet positions, Secretary of State, Head of Intelligence, etc. And Trump's firewall, that last little bit of defense that could hold things together for him and keep him in office with all those obscure and baseless legal challenges that he has been filing in various states. Well, that wall, that figurative firewall, is beginning to crumble, break down, fall into pieces, much like an old cookie at the bottom of the bag. It's crumbling, it's falling apart. And so it seems as though Trump is beginning to acknowledge the cold, hard facts, which is that, well, he lost the election. Ta-da! Moving on. Biden prioritizes the climate crisis by naming John Kerry his special envoy. An envoy is a government representative designated to represent the government in some sort of negotiations, meetings, etc. An ambassador is a type of envoy. The consular officials are officially envoys, and so, while not every envoy is an ambassador is an envoy, a representative of the government. Moving on. Yes, the CNN correspondent says this was the tipping point for the Government Services Administration administrator. She was one of the key figures holding back, and Biden has been told that the transition can formally begin. Ta-da! That's fantastic. Has been told by whom? I don't know. But we've got a nice reduced present perfect passive here. He has been told that the transition can formally begin, and let's learn more in the caption below. Yes, the Trump administration has informed. So he has been told by whom? The Trump administration. They told Joe Biden that they are ready to begin the formal transition process in a letter that which was obtained, or which was received, which was gotten by CNN. And, well, it's about time, 3 weeks after the election now. So, same little thing here, though. Trump tweets about Biden transition formally beginning, because it had kind of formally begun already with Biden naming key cabinet positions, etc. So, as opposed to being done informally, casually, I don't know, but now it's officially begun, and so that's a good thing to try and ease the transition and make the whole process a little bit smoother. Let's move on. Biden unveils his administration. As I said, he's been nominating people for his picks for different cabinet positions, and Trump's firewall is crumbling. Trump's firewall, that last little bit of defense that could hold things together for him and keep him in office with all those obscure and baseless legal challenges that he has been filing in various states. Well, that wall, that figurative firewall, is beginning to crumble, break down, fall into pieces, much like an old cookie at the bottom of the bag. It's crumbling, it's falling apart. And so it seems as though Trump is beginning to acknowledge the cold, hard facts, which is that, well, he lost the election. Ta-da! Moving on. Biden prioritized the climate crisis by naming John Kerry his special envoy. An envoy is a government representative designated to represent the government in some sort of negotiations, meetings, etc. An ambassador is a type of envoy. While not every envoy is an ambassador is an envoy, a representative of the government. Moving on. Yes, the CNN correspondent says this was the tipping point for the Government Services Administration administrator. She was one of the key figures holding back the transition process, refusing to acknowledge Biden's victory. However, now apparently, little by little, the evidence kept adding up to the point where it created a monumental change that is the tipping point. When you keep adding small little factors, and then one more little small factor then causes the entire thing to go a different direction. Not so eloquent today, Mr. James, but that's okay. Just getting started, let's keep it rolling. 5 key takeaways. Ooh, forgot to highlight that one, but those takeaways are the little bits of information that you can put in your pocket and save for later, because there's lots and lots of information, but if you boil it down, distill it, and condense it to a few key points, those are the takeaways, often key takeaways. And his first wave of nominations and appointments for his cabinet positions, well, yeah, just a nice, accurate representation of American society. Yes, the Malcolm Gladwell book, Tipping Point. We do have it downstairs. If you haven't read it, I do suggest you do so. Go out and buy it, or let me know. I'll lend you my copy. Just kidding. Moving on. Oh, no. But it's a wave of nominations. I forgot to say that. Not a wave of nominations, but a whole bunch of them have come in at one point in time and saying him and her and her and her. And so that is a wave of things. It's just nice to see a wave of something as opposed to layoffs, firings, people being let go from their jobs, resurgent coronavirus infections, etc. This is a positive wave, hopefully indicative of positive change. And so now we can move on. Biden has picked a loyal lieutenant, somebody who has been with him for a long time working on key foreign policy issues, to lead the mission to restore the U.S. reputation on the world stage. Ah, yes, well, they have a mission, and it is a mission. To do what? To restore, to bring us back to our former position of being a respected country, I guess. Yes, because our reputation, the reputation is the opinion that other people have of you based on past actions or deeds. Actions and deeds are basically the same thing, though. So, I guess I was just being redundant there. So he's trying to bring our reputation back to something that is a little bit more respected and respectable. Let's keep it moving. Moving on. Why guide dogs in China are rarer than giant pandas. Yes, that's a fun word to say. A lot of people have trouble with it depending on what sort of linguistic background you come from. Rarer. Rarely? Alright. Rarer, less common than. You do not find guide dogs apparently in China. Why? I don't know. Read the article and fill me in. Moving on. China's Xi is pushing for a global COVID QR code. He may struggle to convince the world. Is that going to be some sort of global ID? Give everybody a little QR code? Those little black and white boxes that everybody so dearly loves and cherishes. Yes, it might be difficult. He is fighting, but maybe with little success, to change the minds of the world, to persuade, to convince the world to change their mind, but... yeah, we'll see. What happens? All right, let's keep it rolling. The U.S. has set another record for new COVID cases in children. Yay! I do believe we're number one. Moving on. I'm exaggerating a bit. Giuliani's voter fraud admission. He's admitted that he has been exaggerating in court, talking about the millions of cases of voter fraud and the fact that the entire election is fraudulent. I might have been stretching the truth a little bit, might have been bending the truth a little bit, overinflating numbers and the situation in general. Moving on. Support is growing in Europe for progressive policies once seen as left-wing pipe dreams. Pipe dreams are those sort of dreams or fantasies of a better future that have a very low probability of actually taking place or coming into effect. And I wasn't actually sure where this came from, but it came from the mid-1800s, and it is about smoking opium pipes, because when people smoke opium, apparently they very commonly hallucinate about grand plans for the future or completely different realities, which, well, because they're addicted to opium, there's a very low probability of those ever coming to fruition. And so, yes, those are what pipe dreams are and where they came from. Interesting etymology there. We got another good one down below, or not as good, but good. So stay tuned. A rare species of whale washed ashore dead. Well, typically we like our animal news, but that's a little sad bit there. To wash up on shore, that means to come up on the beach, or to wash ashore. That's about it. Nothing too special, but sad news. Never like it when the whales end up on the beach. They belong in the ocean. Moving on. A helicopter crew. This is interesting. This is kind of, it's really probably not interesting, but it could be. A helicopter crew discovered a mysterious metal monolith deep in the desert. Out in the canyons of Utah, they were flying their helicopter and they looked down and saw this big silver column of metal. No inscriptions or anything. Could it be from the aliens? The aliens who built the pyramids and brought us here to the earth? Or does it have a more simpler explanation, like some artist put it out there just as a memorial to somebody, or who knows? But I'm sure that we'll probably get some crazy alien conspiracy theories that derive from this. A monolith, though, is usually a piece of stone, in this case metal, though, and it's like a column, basically. Best known from the Black Monolith in 2001, A Space Odyssey. Let's keep it rolling. J-Lo has been accused of copying Beyonce at the American Music Awards. Oh no! Drama. Has been accused of, nice dependent preposition and a reduced present perfect passive. Who has accused J-Lo? I don't know. I don't care. It's not important. So, let's keep it moving. Now this is a bit disturbing. A man in Trump gear has been charged, nice, again, present perfect passive, reduced, after deliberately breathing on women outside a Trump golf club. That's right, he's wearing a Trump t-shirt and walking around to women going, probably some weird COVID conspiracy non-believer, or I don't know, but regardless of the motivation, you don't go around breathing on anyone, let alone women. And yes, it was not on accident, it was not by accident. It was done on purpose. It was done deliberately. It was intentional. And that dude is just weird. And thank you for chiming in there. Yes, Nihan. Ew. Gross. I don't think that calls for jail time, and, well, we don't need to pay. Taxpayers don't need to fund his free holiday in prison, but something ought to happen to that guy, because that just ain't right. Moving on. The sport of rugby is mourning the death of a 20-year-old star. Condolences to friends, family, and all fans of rugby, apparently. To mourn the death of somebody, that is not only to feel the grief, but also to go through the motions, demonstrating your sadness, your sorrow for the passing of the individual. And so often we say that you are in mourning, or then as a verb, to mourn, almost always the death of something. And so, I don't know. A lot of news about people dying, passing away, etc. nowadays. Keep your spirits up, keep the morale strong, things will turn around and get better. Well, people will keep dying. That's just what they do eventually. But don't let it get you down. Keep your chin up, as they say. Moving on. Shanghai airport descended into chaos as China continued its zero-tolerance approach to COVID. And if I'm not mistaken, this was centered around some baggage handlers at Shanghai airport tested positive for COVID, and so then they just rounded up everybody and put them into a garage and then tested all of them. Now, it's good that they tested everybody, but just packing everybody into a garage is not a good thing. Opposite of social distancing. And the crowd was apparently noticeably upset about being packed into a garage, hence the descended into chaos. And when we descend, we're going down, and down, figuratively speaking, is usually not the right direction to be going. And so, yes, descend into hell, descend into chaos, descend into anarchy. Yes, that devolution downwards, the downward spiral. Yeah, so often down is associated with those negative aspects. Unless it's your golf score or the number of COVID infections. But, hey, what can you do? Let's move on. Here's some randomness in case you're really missing flying and airline food. British Airways is selling off its in-flight items. That's right, you can buy British Airways champagne flutes, cups, plates, napkins, hot towel plates, and other memorabilia. No, it's not memorabilia because they still exist. However, they're selling it off due to decreased demand. They don't need the stock, and so for the lucky buyers out there, you can own some trays for airline food to remind you of those glorious, glorious meals that you have in the sky. If you're selling something off, it just means that it's not just selling it to earn a profit, but when you add the off there, it implies that you are getting rid of it because it is unwanted or unneeded anymore. And so, yeah, they're selling it off. Maybe they'll start selling off planes or some plane seats. I've always wanted to buy plane seats despite the relative lack of comfort. It's a nice conversation piece. Moving on. Heat-trapping gas levels have reached a new record high. Ah, yes, reached upwards to that record high. Yay, more greenhouse effect. And that's despite the lockdowns. Ooh, despite lockdowns. A nice little noun. We've got lockdowns. People shouldn't be doing so much, consuming so much, using so much fossil fuels, etc. Yet, on the other hand, those gases keep increasing. Sad news, but great for grammar. Moving on. Hospitalizations and COVID cases in the U.S. soar in the U.S. That means they're flying high. And that's not a good thing when the COVID cases are soaring. But that has been basically the headline on this show since I started doing it in mid-March. Surprise. Sad. Moving on. The V&A Museum, whoever they are, has purchased, or somehow, maybe they stole it, I don't know, but they've gotten it, yeah? Ooh, good for them. The Harry Styles cardigan that sparked a TikTok craze. Yes, if they sparked a craze, ooh, yes, that spark is what causes the craze to happen. A craze, like the adjective crazy, but a craze is like a fad or a trend that is wildly popular but often short-lived. And so yes, it may have sparked a craze, but I bet that craze has already burned out. Or maybe it just fizzled and never really got going to begin with. Moving on. Here's a good phrase. Now Snapchat has a TikTok copycat too. Yeah, that's right, everybody's got a TikTok copycat now. You can make little clips with music. I think Instagram has it, Snapchat has it. Everyone's copying each other in the race to fill in what they don't have and the competitors do, because everybody wants to be a copycat. Now, I actually did not know the origin of this term, so I looked it up this morning while I was sipping on my coffee, and copycat seems a bit counterintuitive because animals that normally mimic behavior, you'd think like a monkey, an ape, a parrot, or something. Actually, to ape and to parrot somebody are verbs meaning to imitate them. So why a copycat? Well, thanks to my limited research this morning, it shows that this term first showed up in the 1800s. However, it actually has nothing to do with being a cat and the way that cats copy things. It turns out that just since the Middle Ages, cat was used as an insult for the most part, a derogatory term to insult, to make fun of somebody. It was even used by Shakespeare, associating them with a cat to demean them. And so basically it just means that you are a jerk for copying, for imitating somebody else. That's it. Not too mind-bending or mind-blowing, but still good to know. Let's move on. She was mentioned here on the show briefly, but she was told she was wasting her life. But meet the woman helping put India on the surfing map. And to put something or some place on the map just means that you are now raising awareness of it. And so people are like, oh, that. You're getting that awareness. You're getting that recognition, whereas India had not been a locale or a people associated with surfing in the past, but now they're getting the due recognition that they deserve. Yeah, and so kudos to you. Moving on. How a Netflix show awoke a sports sleeping giant. Ah, yes, it turns out that chess is becoming wildly popular thanks to the Queen's Gambit. And if you awoke something, that just means you woke it up. And so, yes, due to the hit Netflix show Queen's Gambit, we're seeing a resurgence, or at least a surge, in the popularity of chess as a game. Ta-da! Moving on. U.S. swimmer has broken 2 world records in 1 hour. Wow, that's quite an accomplishment. No time for rest in between. Just go out and crush the competition. And so, yes, set records, break records. That's basically what we're looking at here. Nice collocations. Moving on. A rail mega project could shake up trade. Yes, if you're going to shake something up, it disrupts it. To disrupt, well, it would probably first disturb it, but then, yeah, disrupt it. And we know that in entrepreneurialism and business, they love the term to disrupt industries, because then you are upsetting it, you are changing things, and, well, hopefully for the better. And so this mega project could shake up trade. I don't know where it is or where it's going. Probably from China to Europe. That's my best guess, because it's part of their Belt and Roads Initiative or something like that. I forget the exact term for their project, but let's go on. Netflix is facing calls for a boycott, or facing boycott calls in India for a kissing scene. And to boycott something means to refuse to do business with it as a form of protest. And so they want to do damage to Netflix by not purchasing their services in a form of protest to whatever this situation is here. What it is, I don't really know, but this actually is an eponym. It comes from an actual person, Captain Charles Boycott, an English land agent in Ireland in, I believe, the 1800s, who kept trying to raise the rents of his tenant farmers, and as a form of protest they stopped paying and also ostracized him from the community. He was basically banished, became a social pariah, and outcast, ostracized from the community. Boom! There's a whole bunch of vocabulary from yesterday's broadcast. Oh, all right, moving on. Why the GOP is so rattled by Reverend Warnock's faith-based campaign. Yes, they are rattled because, like a children's toy, a rattle, when you shake it, it makes noise. And so if you're shaking something up, then that thing would be rattled. Just like if somebody shook you and the loose marbles that are inside your head were clanging around inside, that would probably kind of disturb you a little bit. And so that's the idea here. It's that nice visual and auditory vocabulary that we so hold so dearly on the show. Yeah, because they thought they had a monopoly on the sort of faith-based politics. However, Reverend Warnock, he's now the head of the church that was once led by Martin Luther King Jr., and his faith-based politics is far more compassionate and inclusive than a lot of the faith-based initiatives held so dear by Republicans. So, kudos to you, Reverend Warnock. Keep fighting the good fight. Moving on. Apparently the author here wants to let Dolly Parton rule the world already. Yeah. Just like a king or a queen, a monarch rules a country, rules a nation because they are the monarch. They are basically God's servant on earth. Their word is the law, and a law is a rule. So to use rule as a verb just means that your word is the law and you are in control and whatever I say happens. And the author wants Dolly Parton to rule the world. Interesting concept. Read the article, fill me in, let me know what that's all about. Moving on. The author loves The Mandalorian, but it has a tin-eared problem. It's an interesting, not a very common phrase, but if you have a tin ear, it means that you are hard of hearing or nearly deaf. Now, let's extend that figuratively. Now, in the past, deaf people or people who had very poor hearing would have those weird cone things made of metal that people could talk into, allowing them to hear better. Now, back then, that metal was typically tin. So thinking about that funnel of sound that brings the sound into the ear so deaf people can hear. Now, we don't actually mean physically deaf here. What they mean is figuratively deaf, socially deaf. And apparently in the show, like we had in the headlines yesterday, what does the Mandalorian have against creatures? Yes, apparently they just travel around the universe killing things that are different from them. And so that's what they're saying. It's insensitive and a little bit deaf to these modern themes of inclusion and not just trying to kill everything that's different than you. Yes, all lives matter, even the creatures. And so they should be a little bit more with the times, march in step. They're a little bit out of step with the way things have been going, I guess. All right, keep it rolling. Yes, and we had it upstairs, up above. Hyperloop wants to change the world, but not everyone is convinced. To convince someone of something, or to convince someone to do something. Grammatically speaking, works the same as persuade. To persuade someone to do something just means to change their mind or get them to do something through, I want to say fact-based, but often it's not fact-based, but through some use of strategies and words to influence other people's behaviors. In this case, not everybody is on board. They haven't exactly changed their mind yet. That's it. Let's move on. And the last headline, nothing really astounding grammatically or in terms of vocabulary, but I just wanted to talk about it. Face recognition, being able to recognize faces. Oh, look, that's my mom. Oh, look, that's my friend Bob. Yeah, it's learning to identify bears and cows. And so that does hold, at least with the cows, I can see how that could have some practical commercial or agricultural, hence commercial applications for knowing which cow is producing this or that. But that's what the RFID tags on their ears are for. However, that is a big leap forward, I guess. And bears, I don't see why that's so important. It's not like there are so many bears or they are that useful for us. And so why are they focused on bears? You think they could focus on something a little bit more useful for us? But okay. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Those were the headlines for today, Tuesday, the 24th of November. Let's head back to the beach to close this down. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I will be on again tonight with another crossword at 8 p.m. That's about that. I hope you have a beautiful day, and if I don't see you sooner, as in tonight, then I'll see you again on Friday when I pick up the streams again, because I got work to do, real work to do between now and then. So 8 p.m. tonight or 8 a.m. Friday. Have a beautiful day and the rest of your week until we see each other again. Breakfast time. Bye-bye.